Welcome back. You're in the C Space Studio. I'm your host, James Kotecki. This is our afternoon session of interviews with advertising, marketing, media, and branding leaders here at C Space. And we're so excited to be joined for our first of the afternoon session by Cara Pratt, a returning guest and the Senior Vice President at Kroger Precision Media. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me back, James.
All right, so Kroger Precision Media, we talked about it last year, but I always like to have people kind of redefine what does your brand mean now going into 2025?
It really is around precision audiences, and human connection has to be delivered and derived through the right relevancy and the right responsibility. And so as we think about how we're creating these connections between customers and brands, being really audience first, channel agnostic, and science driven in all aspects of how we show up.
Audience first, what was the second one that you said?
Channel agnostic.
Audience first, channel agnostic.
Science driven.
Science driven, all very important, and we can get into all of those things. But taking a step back, so Kroger Precision Media, can you give me just a sense of the scope of all the places that you would show up for consumers who are interacting with something that you're touching?
Yeah, of course. A core part of the retail ecosystem is helping brands win within retail in the commerce space. So you have an owned and operated asset that we engage with our brand partners on. The other layer is around the data accessibility and the data layer to influence media and media plans, agnostic of being in any one publisher ecosystem.
Okay.
And so that's where we can work with brands under what are the KPIs, what's the job to be done, what are the opportunities of who they want to expose what content to, no matter where that consumer is.
Okay.
And then of course we've got the right relationships with appropriate data onboarders and DSPs and technology companies and publishers to make sure that we can get the right content exposed to the right consumer no matter where they're consuming that content.
So to borrow maybe a phrase from Kroger itself, are you kind of like a one-stop shop for all the needs of what somebody might want to do when they're advertising?
We can create a new level of accountability across any ad dollar spent.
And what's your message that you're bringing here to CES 2025? I'm sure you're meeting with a lot of people and having a lot of conversations.
It's really around the reality today more than ever that efficiency and effectiveness, not only can it coexist, but it has to. It has to through this next horizon of how we really bring together brand building efforts alongside the performance marketing expectations of the past. We've talked for years in this industry that the funnel is collapsing. The funnel has collapsed. And we need to be able to make sure that we're bringing together really valuable connection points no matter where that consumer is. And so efficiency and effectiveness, it has to coexist. And we've got the right responsibility of the data assets and human connection to allow that to happen.
Can you explain a bit more about the funnel has collapsed? What does it look like now? Is there any shape that we can assign to this? Any geometric shape we can use as a metaphor?
Well, it's an awesome question. I don't have a new geometric shape specifically to that question. But really, the fundamental messaging behind that new reality is brand builders and brand planners can't think like they have in the past. And so we have to really rethink process and practice from the beginning. Audience planning has to reset and ignite a new opportunity to who do we want to expose what content to, and then we work through the different channels that are the right channels to connect with customers. And then you have to have a much greater level of agility within the channel allocation, within the audience experience, and the creative overlays. And so, there is not an opportunity anymore to not bring a fluid nature to business planning as well as brand planning. And of course, at the end of the day, brands need to move product. They need to make sure that their product, their message is resonating, and they move items off the shelf.
Yeah. If you're cool with it, I'm going to call it the fluid dodecahedron. I was trying to remember a name from geometry class, and that's the first one I came up with. So we can coin this new thing together here at CES. It's all about innovation, and I think we can be innovators there. Is there, I think embedded in the answers that you just gave me were a number of different industry trends. But when you look at the trends that you're driving and that you're also kind of operating within, what are those frameworks that you're trying to make sure that you're steering your ship in the right way?
There is definite focus and commitment once you get past the core premise of responsibility that has to happen through any level of human connection, right, and customer connection, and making sure we're creating that right value. It next gets into how we create the right, remove friction, right? What is the right seamless access to this intelligence to help make the entire marketing environment more performant. And so what we've been doing over the last couple of years, we're 7 years in, we're 7 years young, if you will. What we've been doing is adjusting some of the business models and how we go to market alongside some of the technology partners, all to be able to connect with the practitioners every single day and make their lives easier. There's no shortage of data out there. The density of data, the utility of data, the value of that data, there is a differentiation in the marketplace. But how do we engage at the starting point with brands and with our agency partners and ultimately with the technology partners to make sure that we remove friction?
Yeah. Do you think about serving kind of two audiences, both the end consumer and the brand partners, and do you kind of hold those ideas maybe in tension or partnership?
Absolutely, and the end consumer is going to tell us whether we're getting it right.
Right. Let's talk about AI because we're here at CES 2025 and everyone else is talking about it, so we might as well get into this as well. Let's talk about your customers from the perspective of the brand partners that you're working with. What do they expect from AI? What do they expect to just work now? And then how are you actually delivering on that?
Well, there is definitely an expectation where the acceleration of content and creative experiences, that is supercharged and can be supercharged. Really, again, it has to sit within the brand framework of responsibility, but that is an expectation. That's where we're seeing that content and creative push really take shape. And it's an important piece of the puzzle, right? Because there needs to be the right precision of the creative asset connected to audiences, and we need to be able to enable that in a way that we can scale.
Yeah. So there's obviously no shortage of interesting and exciting places to reach customers, and places that are growing include things like streaming services, which are increasingly adding advertising options as a model. You can reach people in stores increasingly. A lot more screens maybe going up in stores. What's really exciting to you? What's the area? Maybe if you want to cheat and choose all of them, you can. But like, what's really exciting to you about these different areas and opportunities of pockets to kind of reach people in new ways?
Yeah, I think there's definitely three that are front of mind. Streaming is definitely one of them. The addressability that is now accessible and only continuing to grow is really material. And we've run well over 100 CTV campaigns, and we're seeing, again, using the right depth and density of the data asset, we're seeing our household penetration household penetration lift grow north of 8%. Sales lift being just shy of 6%. That's great, because the investment that's going to sit behind streaming and then where efficiency is going to continue to play out over time. Obviously, it's a more premium game right now, but that's a core piece and a core promise. The other space that we're excited about moving into is how do we unlock and enable our audiences within the social constructs as well. Obviously, commerce is moving fast and social commerce is moving fast, and that's a big space. And then the last bit, you talked about it within stores and screens. And we're in an early journey there, and that is one that we do believe in, the promise of the future. How do we do that in a way that inspires and connects people as they move through a very traditional journey in a physical format?
And all those things kind of converge, right? So if I buy something in a store and then I take a picture of it and post it on social media because that brand is in some ways part of my identity, these things begin to converge, right? Is there something that you are predicting or imagining for the next 5 years that you think other people in your space might see as implausible, but you really think is maybe going to happen?
It's a great question. The bit that this industry still is sitting behind is this expectation of these retail data signals and the role that retail data signals will materially play in more traditional kind of awareness-driven channels. And we do sit behind the premise of you are what you buy. And how do we use these different signals more strategically across an entire business plan? And that's one that we're still our early days on. Not philosophically challenging that reality, but practically implementing new processes for brands to live by and for their business partners to execute against.
And are there changing ways of measuring success in this space? And are there different ways brands need to be thinking about measuring success as opposed to the past?
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing that take shape, and that's been a really exciting part over the last few years of the traditional media metrics. It's not that they're not important. That is a lens that is looked at, but it's not the lens into effectiveness or the lens into efficiency. The mixed models of annualized mixed models, even quarterly mixed models. This industry moves too fast to rely and wait 12 weeks to understand performance. And so speed of learning and being able to use these micro signals more fluidly into the business outcomes is really, really critical.
And is it also maybe even about like being willing, so if someone were to say, oh, just give me more time, give me more data, I'll give you the perfect answer. Is it about maybe philosophically a willingness to say, I don't have time to wait for the perfect answer, I just need the signal and make the best option that I have right now?
Yeah, and keep moving and keep learning. And I think the other bit is everybody wants to look at incrementality. Everybody wants to think about how effective and efficient can my media be. This industry was born off of really driving to a bottom line on efficiency and cheap reach, you could waste a lot of investment dollars going against cheap reach. And so getting into what truly is the business outcome and brand outcome. What do we think about from a household penetration, net incremental households into the brand, long-term value, using some different data points and KPIs is going to be really important.
Well, so much more to talk about when we hopefully have you back again. Cara Pratt, Kroger Precision Media. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you so much for watching us. This is the C Space Studio. I'm your host, James Kotecki. We are here at CES 2025, and more great conversations are just ahead. Definitely live.